Welcome to Promote, Profit, Publish. We have another really great guest today, but before we get into it, I want to invite you guys to run over to www.promoteprofitpublishquiz.com and take our quiz and find out just how well you're doing with your promoting and profiting before you even think about publishing. What's going on there? And are you really selling products and services, or are you relying on that book to do it for you? Which it won't. Anyway, today's guest is Melko Moore, and she helps 6- and 7-figure coaches, consultants, and therapists. That's where we have a lot of people in common, are the therapeutic healer world. She helps them create next level offers that kill it in the marketplace through her super tight specialization and contagious articulation. An escaped academic, her superpower is helping her mission-minded clients generate narratives for world-class thought leadership. So welcome, Ellen. Great to have you today.
I'm very excited to be here. I feel so special already to be part of this background that you got going on.
Thank you. I shared the background secrets with her earlier, but I'm not going to share them with you guys. You have to figure it out yourself. So Ellen is here. We're going to talk a little bit about today branding and marketing, but branding and marketing for those who are just sort of starting out and getting their programs branded and their businesses branded. A lot of what we see here are people who bring those in and they're ready to go right to the book. And they bring that book in. And they bring it in because they think that's going to sell those products and services. And Ellen and I are going to share today that that's not the sequence. So that's not what's going on. So welcome, Ellen.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
So tell us a little bit about, of course, thought leadership. That's where you're helping people get into those really great programs and get that branding. Tell us a little bit about what that brand has to do with thought leadership.
Well, as you know, you mentioned before, a lot of people, even people who are very successful in business, tend to kind of collapse brand and marketing as if they're exactly the same thing. And of course, they're part of the same thing. One of the ways to think about it is brand is the story of your offer, and marketing are the different ways that you share that story. So most of the folks I work with, they have a successful offer. They've done something to begin that's working, either to get them private clients, if they're a therapist, to fill up their office, if they're a B2B consultant, to have, built up that business reputation. But the whole point of brand is it is your reputation. And what matters so much for thought leadership is that you have a brand that is designed for someone. As the marketing god Seth Godin likes to say, it's not about you're going to invent this offer and then find the person that's going to fit. It's about finding the person that you really want to be with, who's got what we call the ATP, ability to pay, as well as the other qualities that you're looking for. And that crucial person who's really looking for you right now. You don't have to educate them so much on all this stuff. They're already in the know. And so with brand, whenever you want to go up to another level, whatever that next level of success is for you, whether you're just getting started or you've been successful, but now you want to do something like a book, for example, you need to look again at how tight, as we say, the offer is. So a super tight offer is one that is designed for a very specific kind of person. I always feel like when you go to the trouble of making someone else really special and you create a world for them with your offer, with your social media, with the way you communicate in the marketplace, those people, if they feel special because you're making them feel special, they'll send that love back to you. So often when people are getting started, either with building their practice or their clients for the first time, or they're going to a next level, such as digital thought leadership, they're going to do an online course, they're going to do advanced consulting, they kind of rely on whoever's around them, whoever are the people that are in their immediate vicinity to sort of think about who is this offer for. But we find again, even with very, very successful people, it's always worth it to re-examine brand in the sense of who is the brand for. And the most successful brands I've seen are very, very good at doing that. It is not something that's designed for everybody. So to complete, as far as thought leadership, if you want a faster, easier path to thought leadership, you really want to keep looking at your audience, or your client or your student or your reader. And if you can understand them, and you go to the trouble to understand them in a way that nobody's ever quite gone to that trouble before, you can then create a brand for them that will seriously impact your dollars and impact their health in whatever way that you're trying to make a difference.
And that is so true. The reason that Ellen and I connected is we have a mutual client. And what we do with the assessment marketing is, in a sense, part of what you're talking about is connecting
Absolutely.
in advance. And the more you know about that consumer, the better you are to build the brand to serve them. And that's what it's really all about. And I think that that's what we see, you and I, so much out in the coaching world is somebody has a great idea, they put a program together, and then they go out and they look
Yes.
for that person that is right for them instead of doing that sort of research in advance and cultivating that audience and in a sense, validating them.
Absolutely. I mean, I think I might have mentioned to you, Juliet, that I stumbled across this with my first business being extremely successful. And I'd been an academic. I was an English professor, didn't want to stay in academia, and wanted to know if there was anyone else in the world who would pay for, the fairly useless skill of reading and talking about books. And so created an offer for people in book clubs and reading clubs. And because at the time, nobody else had paid that much attention to them as a unique consumer of books, and what they were doing with books, our rise was very fast, and got to do all kinds of wonderful things with that. And I think it was because I didn't spend a lot of time thinking about, why are we special? Why am I special? It was all about, why is this client, why is this reader special? And then adjusting everything for their world and learning to speak in the language that connects with them and what they're worried about right now and what really matters with a book group, all that kind of stuff. And I did it because I had to, only in the sense that I had degrees from 3 very expensive universities and just a massive amount of student loans. So I had to, it had to work financially for me, because I knew I wasn't going to take that traditional academic path. So that's where I stumbled upon it. And again, I've seen people rush because there's a narrative right now that says, oh, you got to start marketing. You got to start marketing. You got to start marketing. Because of course you need to build up an audience in order to sell anything. Of course that's true. But then people jump to that so quickly before they've really figured out who the offer is for. And that's where I see a lot of people get stalled, because then they've got something like, if they're a coach, they're saying things like, it's for women in transition or something like that. And women in transition is not a tight enough market to really be able to speak to.
That's very true. But you said something very, very important in there that about um, so many branding companies looking for that. Why are you special as an individual? And I actually, this over the weekend, I was looking at a post on Facebook, and it's somebody who just had a workshop, and she was talking about all of these things she created. And not all I could think of is I, instead of what about that audience you're supposed to be serving? What about them? And that is why that is so important to get super tight on it and get into that consumer, because it's not all about you. It's about them. It's about who you're serving.
Absolutely. And I think that's why, your quizzes and what you do to help people think about this are just, it's so essential. I think people feel pressured because, now you're going to be an entrepreneur, you're going to have your own business. The automatic assumption is there has to be something special about me if I'm that entrepreneur, that founder. And so I've got to tell you all these things about my background and what I've created and what I've done, my education. And we actually check something. I'm not going to use the bad language, but we actually have a meter. When we look at people's websites and we look at their social, we spend a lot of time analyzing how much of it is that me language.
Mm-hmm.
I did this, I did that. And again, I don't think people are doing that because they're selfish or, self-obsessed. It's because of the pressure to create oneself as special and unique and your offer as special and unique. And I just think it's so much easier when you start with who's this person you want as a client and a reader, and then look at what else does that person have to choose from. That allows you to create a differentiator that comes across as a super tight, highly contagious brand,
Mm-hmm.
versus the pressure of trying to figure out what's different about me. That I think that's a lot of pressure. And I'm not very good at that. I'm not good at talking about what's different about me.
Yeah.
So
I actually do have a value base about what is different about me. It's the action that we
Sure.
take. But
But again, Juliet, that's not, if I may say so, I don't think that's so much about you, really. It's about the result that you're going to produce.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
Not only the result that we're going to produce, but I think in a sense, it's when you compare me to other programs, look at, do you want action or do you want theory? Because so many of them out there, and you know this too from the stuff you've done, so many of them are theory. And instead of, we're going to move the ball forward at a very rapid rate, which when you're an entrepreneur and time is money, that's really important.
Absolutely.
So
and
go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to ask you the next question. Okay. So what is the difference exactly between that market and that brand? You talked a little bit about it, but could you really separate it out into which pieces go where?
If you think of brand itself as your reputation, if a brand is a reputation, it means that you don't create your own reputation, right? Marketing is the stuff you put out there. If I were to say, I'm a really great, branding expert, and I did this and I did that, and here's super tight, that's me marketing. For somebody else to talk about it and say, I got these results from super tight brand, that's a brand. So if you think of the brand and the super tight brand as this highly focused concept that's designed for a specific audience, marketing is the ways you tell people about that concept. So, it's your website, your social, it's how you talk to people, it's wherever you show up and whatever you say. The other fun thing about brand versus marketing is brand is you on your worst day as well as your best day. Brand is if you're a high cost transaction to work with, despite your brilliance. Brand is, there's the negative pieces in it as well as the positives, whereas marketing, of course, tends to be all positive. Here's the wonderful things that we can do for you. And the reason it matters is that when you're out there marketing and telling people about your offer and communicating with your people, if you haven't done the work to figure out what is it that you want them, even if they just see you once and they're not ready to buy or they're not ready to follow or whatever, what is it that you want to leave them with? What is it that you want them to know about what you're doing or about themselves, even better? Again, I think saying Ellen is great at super tight brand is marketing. If Juliet says Ellen is great at super tight brand, that's brand.
Right.
Because I'm not saying it myself.
Right. And we do see it out in the coaching space. We see a lot of people who are really good at self-promotion that don't deliver results. And we pretty much all know who they are.
Yes.
Because
so therefore their marketing might be good, but to those in the know, the brand is not so good.
Exactly. They're not getting the results that and I've had this conversation, I think, with you before about, they don't articulate deliverables. So people really think they're getting much more than they're getting because of those deliverables, but they're great at telling you how great they are and very effective at it. So that's a great way to look at that.
Yeah. It's always good if you want to accept someone's offer. If you're looking for your next business coach or your next marketing coach or your strategy leader, somebody who's helping you with the fundamentals of numbers, whatever it is, you want to go and find out what other people are saying and what the results have been. Because another thing I see a lot is that coaches, especially people who are kind of trying to build up something, they will tell you about all the results they've achieved. But I see this a lot, like a good friend of mine who's a social media rock star. A few years ago, she hired a business coach, but this business coach had worked with mostly people in real estate and finance. She didn't really know how to help my friend who's a social media star, build her next level offer. She had a system that worked for a different kind of person.
Mm-hmm.
And so that $10,000-$15,000 basically went down the tubes. One of the things I see a lot is by the time people come to me, they've spent between $40,000 and $50,000 on coaching, usually around marketing and strategy, and yet the brand itself is not specialized enough.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't occur as remarkable, and then there's a breakdown.
I agree with that. I end up probably half my market are not beginners. They're people who have spent an extraordinary amount of money and not done the basics. They jump in. There are a lot of people who want to jump in the middle, and there are some very big basics that have to be done as foundation.
Yeah, there's a lot of weeping and crying over here because people will come in with these beautiful websites that they've paid all this money for. That, again, it's not like we have to redo the entire thing, but we have to rethink the entire thing
mm-hmm.
because of who that website is designed for or not.
Right.
So people will resist that. They'll say, well, but I've spent all this money on this property, or I've spent all this money on this platform. And it really comes down to if you want that next level of success, you need a specialized offer. Mm-hmm. And right now, this is not communicating as a specialized offer. Like, it might actually be one, but it's hard to tell.
Right.
So,
most people, I don't know, I hardly use my website at all because people don't go looking for the website unless they know about you first.
Yes,
so,
exactly. No one's searching for that website unless they've seen you somewhere else first.
Right. So I think there's a misconception out there that I need a website first. And you really can run on landing pages while you're getting this all up and running in the right way.
Absolutely.
And probably it's a more inexpensive way to go, because then you're actually getting the professional help you need with the branding for the real product versus what you have out there now. So
yeah, and you get a chance to kind of practice. I like anywhere. I practice a lot. Just because I help doing this for other people doesn't mean I'm necessarily good at doing it for myself. So, and I think I've worked with some very, very high level people who have come off some huge successes that people have heard of, and they're not good at doing it for themselves either. So it isn't about one's personal failing. It's because brand is what someone else sees, not what I see, right? Mm-hmm. So I love landing pages. I love LinkedIn profiles. I love places where I can practice my articulation to see whether I'm connecting, to see am I getting the results I'm trying to get here. That way I can sort of start to tell what's landing. Often the things I thought were so fantastic and wonderful don't really land. And things that I sort of wrote in a hurry just to get from here to there might be the unexpected thing that really works for people. So I'm a big believer in practice, and get outside help from somewhere.
Yeah. And I have the same thing. I hire copywriters, I hire designers, because I can look at your stuff all day long and pick and choose out here's the gap. This is where we need to go. But my own, I have a big blind spot. But you just said something very important there that I think bears repeating. It's not what you think about your brand. It's the perception of the people on the outside looking in. Can you speak to that a little bit more? Because that's what's really important here.
Yeah. I mean, if the simplest explanation of brand is reputation, if that's the simplest way to explain what it is, a reputation is created by other people. By definition, a brand is not created by you. We may have some choice in how we guide and direct it, but brand is all in the eye of the beholder. So it's actually not up to me to say what my brand is. I can say what I hope it is. I can say what I'm trying to communicate with it, but ultimately it's always decided by your audience, your colleagues. And it's happening all the time. You know, when you're on Facebook or LinkedIn, or you're doing whatever it is you're doing, YouTube, other people are making instant decisions about your brand. And they're not necessarily reading through all that gorgeous copy or whatever it is. You know, and if they're the right person and you've landed it right, they will read through that stuff. But a lot of these decisions are happening instantaneously, subconsciously, based on, if I'm your intended consumer, do I feel special around you? Do I feel like you understand my world? And if I feel understood and uplifted, and not just a bunch of rah crap, like not just a bunch of inspirational, you're the best and your heart-centered idea is going to set the world on fire, but like, I'm helping you kind of get through some of the tough parts of that, you're going to stick around. And so every year I found business improves the tighter I create my stuff for a specific person. It's like a dog whistle. Your brand is a dog whistle, and only certain dogs can hear it. And you want it to be like that. You want only a certain kind of dog to hear. And then brand becomes more of a conversation, because people are coming back to hear more. They want to know what's happening next. And then they start to adjust to some of your ideas. Mm-hmm. But by definition, you are not the ultimate creator of your brand. Your audience creates it by what they see.
Very, very, very nice. So who's your target client, and why do they come to you?
They are 6 to 7 figure B2B consultants, coaches, mindset coaches, and successful therapists. And again, most of these people have already built a successful business. The other thing they have in common is these are folks with a very high level of mastery coming in. They are very, very proficient at whatever is their offer, whether it's a personal offer of personal mindset and help, or a professional offer. They've already been successful. They've built a business that works, but now they want to next level it. So that's what we really focus on at Super Tight, is kind of this next level. And that means what's cool for us is we can create a narrative that's for a much more sophisticated client or customer. And by sophisticated, I just mean we don't have to start all over again with business 101. You know, they've gotten some of that. Mm-hmm. But in order to create a digital course, let's say they're very popular in their area, but now they want to sell a digital course, or they're going to do an advanced consulting offer. It's somebody who had a B2B offer out there that was, you know, 25,000, but now it's 250,000. So what changes there? People also do come quite a bit who are looking for that book to create next level of platform for them. And I like what you said earlier, like the book is not going to sell the course. It does other things. Mm-hmm. But after a while, when I started this business, I worked with tons and tons of brand new people and a lot of startups. And I still like doing that. And I always have a couple people on the roster who are like that, just because it's fun to be there at that very beginning. But on a level of what I want these people to achieve is world-class thought leadership. So if I'm going to take them to world-class thought leadership, I need to know that they're coming in with a certain amount of sophistication and experience. And also, let's be honest, world-class thought leadership is not for everybody. Not everyone cares about that. Right. It's just either they want the money, but they don't care about the world-class part, or, that it's not necessary for them to be a thought leader on that level. I just think I just like working with really smart people who have a high level of generosity as well as genius. And those are people who just want a bigger impact and a bigger message. And so they know to take it to next level, something's going to have to change. They don't always know when they come in that it's brand. They don't always know when they come in that it's audience. A lot of people, when they first call, they'll say, well, I don't know, I'm feeling sort of bored of this. It's working, but I'm getting sort of irritated by it. I know there's something more for me, but I don't know what it is. And often I think that's when people have outgrown a brand or an offer. Mm-hmm. Again, didn't mean they did anything wrong. They've just evolved and moved on.
That is so very true. And I love what you said about, that they're very generous, because you can feel the difference between somebody who's in it for the money and someone who's in it because they really want to serve and create an impact. And
Yeah.
I've had some of my clients come and say, I interviewed with somebody, and oh my God, 15 minutes in, he's just hardcore selling me. And I don't feel like he listened to me. So you can really, really tell the difference when you get in those situations. And that's where you don't want your brand reputation going downhill, when people are talking like that about it.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I think it's pressure to people if they're feeling any kind of scarcity, which lots of people
Mm,
are these days.
mhm.
There's sort of an idea, I just met you, so I need to jump down your throat and tell you everything about my world over here, and why you need it when I haven't even found out anything about you.
Mhm.
So I think we're starting to see, and we see it too, in the books that are coming out from some of the top people in this world, who are, Seth Godin, Tim Ferriss. There's a lot of people who are really starting to focus on, I think, what women tend to do a little bit better, which is develop more of a relationship. If you kind of give people a moment just to kind of come in, and you can give them some value and help. Whenever I do a video or a blog post, I always think, in this 2 minutes,
Excuse me.
bless you, in this 2 minutes video or this one page, but what am I going to do to shift your perspective?
Mhm.
Because you don't have to like me or like everything about Super Type Brand, but if I can do something in that short amount of time that gives you a shift in perspective, that lets you see something, that's really valuable. And I give that away all day long, because the people I like and the people I follow do that as well.
Mhm.
So I think we're seeing, some different ways, shall we say, some old ways of doing business in the Mad Men model of advertising. I think
Yes.
we're seeing some of those start to fade away. And what's funny is, again, we see a lot of these top people in marketing, talking about building relationships. But the good thing is, I think a lot of our people, Juliet, like, already know about that inherently. Like, that's just how they are. Then the trouble comes because now they've got to have a business and they've got to be successful. So then they try on some of these other ideas of, the fast sell, and let me use all the weapons of influence to convince you it's so great over here and I'm going to change your life. And then it just gets awkward and rocky. So I always look for genius and generosity. Those are the two things I'm always looking for, and not just in clients, but anybody I'm working with, talking to, for
Yeah.
any reason. Yeah.
Yeah, and you said something interesting there about the convincing. If you are in a position with your company where you're having to convince someone, you've already lost. You've lost the empowering piece of this.
Yeah.
Allowing people to understand what you do and how it integrates with what they do, and meeting them where they're at, is really what the service is all about. When you do that, the convincing goes out of it. They
Yeah.
either know or they don't know. And
Yeah.
most of the time, that comes down to, do I like her or do I not? Does
Yeah.
she seem credible and I will achieve those goals, or will I not? And I think
Yeah.
that's really where that money piece comes in, when you feel like, oh, that person's like really pressuring me to give them money and not
Yeah.
telling me what I'm going to get in exchange.
Yeah. And so if you've spent all this time sort of thinking of your brand as your colors or your logo, or another thing I get people freak out all the time is like taglines and headlines. Like, it's nice when all that shit's, excuse me, it's nice when all that stuff's lined up. It's nice when it is. That's a lovely aspect. And of course, it's important to have a visual congruence and all that stuff, of course.
Uh-huh.
But as you said, it really comes down to the liking and the trust. And liking and trust don't happen immediately. You have to give somebody a minute. So what I loved, for me, the switch was, in the early days, I did think I sort of had to convince people. I had to demonstrate something. Um, Having done it enough, there is demonstrations out there. There's plenty of people you can go talk to about their experience. But more than that, I just want people to feel safe. Um, and I want them to feel special. I want them to feel like when they come into my world, because my world is not designed for every consumer. It's not designed for every coach. It's not designed for every therapist.
Mhm.
I think thinking about the ecology that you create with whatever you're doing with your brand and your marketing, whether it's a Facebook group, whether it's how you're being on LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, whatever it is. What is this world you're creating? And if people can come in and get a chance to like you and trust you and see that it's solid, by the time you do a discovery call or a sales call, 90% of that work's going to be done. And if they're really interested, they're going to have logistics questions and you can answer them, but you shouldn't be on a call trying to persuade somebody that this is the thing.
I
Yeah, never.
I
Mhm.
agree. I agree. Ellen, where can we find you if we want to talk to you more about this topic?
Well, I'm really, really active on LinkedIn these days just because I've been having a lot of fun over there getting to connect with people who are a few levels up the food chain from me and just learning from them. So LinkedIn is a great place. Ellen Melko Moore on LinkedIn. You can find me there. Supertypebrand.com is the website. And we also have a Facebook group. It's called Supertype Brand World Class Thought Leadership, excuse me. So that's something you can apply to join if you feel and so inclined.
Very good. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much. And Juliet, thank you for the huge, differentiated, wonderful service you're providing. Because I mean, just by this, what you're doing and how you're having people think and look, it is going to make such a difference to people's income and to their dreams and to their ability to have, why did they get into this business, this dream business? What was it for? And I think you're one of the people just doing it right and really making it possible for people to have that by giving them the shift, the deliverables, the tools. It's just incredible. So I am super flattered to be on here with you. And it's just a privilege to know that you're out in the world creating this.
Oh, thank you very much.